We have a secret, just we three, the robin and I in the sweet cherry tree. The bird told the tree and the tree told me, and nobody knows it but just us three. But of course the robin knows it best, because she built thee, I shan't tell the rest, and laid the four little something in it. I'm afraid I should tell it every minute. That is The Secret by an anonymous writer. So, as we start learning more about secrets, we come back to the post-wrap-up interrogation. Micah, Yins, Tio, Eeyore, all of them fought against turncoats, or maybe at this point Micah's the turncoat, we don't know. But as they fought and were able to overcome the would-be assassins, they decide to kind of take them all, or take the one sniper who was left alive, brought him into the hunting cabin that they had found themselves at, and decided to interrogate him. But one of the things that Tio made sure to mention is that he would not abide by any kind of murder. He would not abide by abuse nor torture. And this set a little bit of a tension between him and Micah as I drop everything, but specifically as Micah is very aware that he is right now hunting for the thing that murdered his sister. But as they start getting some secrets, they start asking more and more. They learn that Bobby himself doesn't fully know what's going on, but seems to be capitalizing on it. But as the lone soldier takes a moment, he reveals that he has a hidden weapon in a cybernetic arm and decides to take a shot. So we're going to start off by going to our chaos factor. They had pretty good control over the interrogation right up until the crazy roll at the end, so I'm actually going to drop the chaos factor down to a 7, because a lot of weird impossibilities occurred, which are starting to help shape the story as we see it. But we're going to now, we're going to roll our the chaos factor for the scene. All right, so that is a 3, which means 3 is an altered scene. Okay, so maybe what that means, my assumption is that this would-be assassin is about to take his shot, fire it off, and possibly catch someone by the drop. But we know that Micah himself actually has an edge, which prevents... Let's see. Yeah, he has a really, really cool edge of danger sense. So he gets to roll a +2, a notice check at +2 to sense ambushes. So the first thing we're going to do, his notice roll is a d6. So he gets 2d6 +2. However, it's a -2 due to the fact that this guy has a hidden derringer in his finger, which provides a -2 notice roll. So this is a flat roll. That is a 2 and a 1. This is pretty critical. I'm going to pay a Benny. All right, there we go. That's a 4 and a 1. So Micah sees the fingers pivot. They move at a slightly unnatural angle, and he is now at least aware that there is a weapon present. Let's roll. We're going to roll here on... What would this be? I've been relying more and more on the combat actions. So let's roll on the combat actions to see what poor Micah does. 79. Punish. Well, that doesn't sound... Oh, no. 79 is rude. And 55 is kill. So here's the question I'm going to ask. Is Micah so pissed off? Is he going to strike to kill this guy? 54, that is a yes. Okay. Now, the next fate question. I'm going to call this nearly certain, but does this violate the code for the Cyberknights? 46. That is a yes, not a definitive yes. So, what this means, Micah reaches forward. He sees this thing, the gun come out. He's aware that there's a chance for an assassination attempt. And he summons his Psi sword without even a question. This man is bound to the chair. He is taking one shot, knowing that's probably a suicide run. That is a hit, though it's not a hit with a raise, but he gets a +4 on it, given the fact that this man is he's effectively getting the drop on him. So it is his strength plus 2d10. So d8 plus 2d10 to determine the damage. There's a high likelihood he effectively just beheads this man. I mean, it's 19 on the roll. One of them blows up. Plus another 8. That's 27. This guy doesn't have the toughness to handle that. Micah steps forward. And Tio isn't quite aware of what's going on. He sees it, though. And he reaches out a hand. And he goes, Micah, boy, no! And as he does, he tries to stop Micah. Micah lashes out. The blade comes up, severing this man's cybernetic hand at the wrist. It flops off, and then in the same swing, he severs this man's, pretty much from ear to ear. And this man's head just flies off. Micah looks at it. There is a shimmering moment in his blade. There is blood sizzling along it. Micah looks down and he realizes that his shadow blade, this dark gray that it always is, just appears a little bit darker. Now, the other thing that it means, let's see. Let's go to the Cyberknight, page 25, and let's see what a violation of the principles actually does. Okay. All right. Let's see. We need to see the... Come on, Savage Worlds. All right. The Game Master must determine the extent of a Cyberknight's transgressions and assess a penalty accordingly. For instance, never use a Psi sword on an opponent not equal to the attack as one commonly used. Please see the Savage Foes of North America for the entirety of the Code of Chivalry. However, a minor transgression is a -1 to all psionics rolls. A major transgression is -2, and all of his cybernetic combat skills and the inner light cease to function until he undertakes a personal quest. His Psi sword is reduced to doing his strength plus spirit and damage, and all AP values are halved. A mortal transgression. All Cyberknight abilities are lost. However, should he commit another mortal transgression, his spirit is corrupted and he regains all of his abilities but becomes a fallen Cyberknight. This was the mortal flaw that I saw in this character. This is why I wanted to play a Cyberknight, because what else could be worse than not necessarily dying too early, but losing yourself, taking a choice that completely alters your life and the path that it's on. So, let's see. I want to pull up the Savage Worlds ability card, or the books. Savage Rifts. Now let's see the Cyberknight entry in the Savage Foes, because I want to make sure that I read these properly. We know he is doing this action. Let me also change the music. Cyberknights. All right. Fair play. Okay. So, under the Code of Chivalry, number 2, fair play. Never attack an unarmed foe. Debatable, right? But we're going to say effectively this man was bound. There's no way that he could have. Never use a side sword on an opponent not equal to the attack. That is an absolute truth. Never attack from behind. That one is kind of a truth. Avoid torture, also kind of a truth. Let's see. Never betray, avoid deception, courtesy. All right. So here is going to be the question that I'm going to ask, and this one's kind of an important one. This is going to be a fate question. All right, here we go. Let's ask the fate question. Does this qualify as a major transgression? 35. This is a yes. Micah. He blinks and suddenly... Fuck. What is... No. No, this is not right. This man came here as a murderer. He refused to give a answer to his lawful lord. And then he drew a weapon on me. He realizes as he is defending himself to Tio. Tio's looking at him with some incredibly sad eyes. He goes, "Son, I don't know what you're going through. I can understand that this is tearing you apart. What you have done is a heinous sin. This man was bound in my duty and in my protection. I told you I would not abide by torture." Micah looks down and goes, "I didn't torture him. He drew a weapon." I responded, "It was self-defense." He goes, "The man was not equal to the attack. Had you just severed his hand, that would have been one thing. You would have taken away the weapon that he had tried to murder you with, but he was not capable of fighting back. You butchered the man in a seat, in front of me. You may pretend to be a lord, but what I have seen here is not nobility. What I don't understand is, of course, how are you supposed to be a cyber knight? How are you supposed to be something better than the rest of the rabble, than the rest of the people who just try to get by every day and have to make terrible decisions? We need to be exemplary. And what you just did, that can't be done. And just as importantly, it cannot be undone." He looks over. And, Yin sees nothing wrong. It's like, "No, my lord, you did exactly what you're supposed to do there. He drew down on you. It seems like a fair fight to me." And we see just kind of a glint in the eye as we look over to Eeyore. The reptilian face is a little harder to make out, but there is absolutely a look of disgust. The man himself just kind of sees this. He goes, "What you have done has been talked about. It is drilled into us from an early age when we become cyber knights. It is obvious you were not raised in the way. I can tell you what just happened was evil. You should never do that. You should never raise a weapon to a creature who is unequal to the attack." He turns. Eeyore, who seemed a little bloodthirsty, but at the same time, very loyal to Tio. And as he looks over to Tio, he goes, "What do we do now, Knight?" Tio looks over and goes, "We leave. We leave. We report. We update the archives. And if this one wishes to learn what it means to be a cyber knight, then I recommend you go and talk to Lord Coke. But Lord Coke will know what happened this day. It will be a hard day. No one is so far gone that they cannot be redeemed. But your redemption requires a lot more than some acts of service. I suspect that there will be repercussions. Tio lets his psi sword go. He wasn't even fully aware that he had it out. Eeyore just kind of looks over to Yin's, and then goes, Well, I hope you can find your way. The two of them walk out. Micah looks a little disturbed, a little pissed off. Fuck them. I don't know what their fucking problem is. I have done everything according to the rules, but we need to survive. And he's like, you're preaching to the choir. I understand. We still haven't found this fucking creature. And this one. All we know right now is that Bobby may be leading a rebellion. We don't even know who. We haven't gotten any closer. Fuck. So, let's see. The chaos factor is going to go up. And we're going to call this a new scene. We're going to go up to an 8. Because, quite frankly, a major transgression is going to fuck him up. Micah, in his own way, just got even weaker. So, I'm going to make sure that I fully understand everything that just happened, but it sounds like Cyber Knight with the major transgression, -2 to all psionic rolls, and cybernetic combat, which is... What the fuck is it? Okay, so it's Champion Edge doesn't work. And... Oh. Any electronic technology-based attacks such as lasers suffer a -2 to hit, so that doesn't work. His psi sword is reduced, and all AP values are halved. Man, shit. That was not a good call there. So, let's go. Chaos factor of 8. 5, so we're going to go into a altered scene. My assumption is that it is probably about a day later. Micah and Yins are out hunting still. 52, so yes. What would be the next alter? I don't know. What's going to alter this? Let's roll on meaning table descriptions. Descriptor 1, 31, excitedly, and 50, excitedly lacking. Oh, here's going to be a question then. Do they find themselves with next to no resources? 44, that is yes, and we're going to have a random event. So, random event focus table. 38, which is an NPC action. Okay, which NPC? Wow, that's a great question, Paul. Let's find out. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. NPC action 6. Okay. NPC action from Lord Coke. What does that mean? What would Lord Coke do? He's remote, but it's going to somehow affect our characters here. So let's roll on the action table. 87. Succeed. 66. Succeed pain. Succeed pain. I don't know. That one's still going to confuse me, so let's think about this for a little bit. I'm just going to jot it down, and if something comes to me, then we will roll with it. So, oops. So, Coke, succeed, pain. Oh, here we go. I have an idea. Maybe it's not so much as Coke. Maybe, because we're talking about the NPC, given the fact that we had Aurora, the mystic, give a kind of like the... okay, here's what I think. I'm going to ask this question. Is the random event while Micah is sleeping at camp, is he going to have the vision that the other psychics and the sensitives have been having? 18. Oh, it's 1 point away from a yes, or from a exceptional yes. Okay. So, Micah, let's roll. Let's see. There's a visions table in here. Visions and dreams. 52. Instruction. And 10. Instruction change. As Micah drifts off that night, he gets this warning. It swarms through his mind. Tiny pinpricks of firelight. It almost looks like cinders and ashes. He sees something. He knows it is off to the east. Mountains. Low rolling hills almost, but mountains nonetheless. They divide, and from their very peak, there is a sense of ancient. His mind, even though he's never seen them, knows these as the Blue Ridge Mountains. And somewhere, as though the planet itself is trying to warn him, he sees it. There is a prick of blue light. It seems to echo upwards as though it is being contained in a chamber, and a chimney stack of it is just ripping upwards. And as Micah begins to see it, he realizes that's a rift. Not only is it one of the infamous openings that splits the skin of reality, allowing other natures, other universes to come through, but it is massive, and part of it is underground. And from it, suddenly he sees as though somebody burning away massive amounts of leaves and paper. These swarming red, angry dots. They pull out of the rift. They have no real form. He has no idea what they are. But wherever they touch, they immediately begin to burn away. And it's not a forest fire. It's not the trees themselves catching alight, but it is destruction, consumption, devastation. It sweeps outwards in almost like a whirlpool pattern, radial lines as they spiral further and further out, exploratory. And then shivering teeth, a massive body made up of thousands. And as Micah begins to see tiny raindrops that he knows represents people fighting for their lives, they try to keep the tiny little bits at bay. But as each one of these sparks moves, and as one goes out, it destroys hundreds of raindrops. And Micah realizes that it's a flood. And just barely, are there enough raindrops to put them all out. But he then sees another massive conflagration. whereas these were tiny sparks threatening to consume everything. Far off to the east, across the ocean, he sees that there are gigantic pillars of shadow, and where they touch at the four corners, and they begin to gravitate towards each other, swirling around, and in their wake they leave just vile desecration. They move as though they are searching for each other, like tornadoes spiraling out of control, a massive weather pattern that is trying to consolidate all this aggressive force. And where two tornadoes touch, suddenly there is a massive storm. It's the continuing build, a cyclone. A third one touches, and now it is a storm that ravages the continent of Africa. And as the fourth one gets closer and closer, suddenly tendrils, like tentacles, begin to spiral outwards, and they touch on every single continent. The fourth one gets closer and closer still, the storm itself hungry to take on its last brethren. And as it does, suddenly it is squashed. Fights, millions dead, on a planet that could barely support millions. He sees then, as it dies down, as the storm dissipates, leaving nothing but devastation and a continent divided, suddenly there is a shadow growing. It is growing from out in Europe. It quickly consumes, but it's also under the surface. What does it mean? It's like somebody is taking a thin veil and they are now obscuring vision. And as that grows outwards, further and further and further, tiny little bits of it get cut off and two more take its place. Like fighting the Hydra of old, it can't be defeated by just one stroke at a time. It must be severed, removed, uprooted. And as millions begin to work against it, Micah looks upwards, and the sky of his planet is not a sky, but just a gigantic eye watching it all, waiting. Micah is gripped by fear. He feels like vomiting. He feels like screaming, running, going feral. He looks it up and down. He has no idea if it's watching him. Its eye moves across, watching each one of these disasters and more. Things that he doesn't understand. Conflagrations that seem to have no real sense. And as he watches this massive eye, suddenly he feels a hand on his shoulder. He turns and he sees the graying at the temples older man that he saw in his first vision. And he stammers, what is going on? Can it see us? Should we be hiding? There's a sadness in this man's eyes. He looks Micah up and down. He goes, you shouldn't even be able to see this. He goes, do you know what you have done? You have violated everything I have built. You have, in an act of anger, in an act of vengeance, you have struck down what I believe in. And, quite frankly, I'm disappointed. I've never met you, Lord Micah. I wish to meet you, but not like this. You will either find your way, or we will find you. Micah turns and looks at him. He goes, What? What does that mean? How can any of that be important in the scope of all this? And as this image of Lord Coke turns to him, he looks upwards, the gentle eye, or the giant eye, and there's a gentle look on his face. His eyebrows furrow a little bit. And he goes, Son, it is our actions that means everything in the face of this.